Good morning everyone, it's December 3rd, so welcome to the second day of Vlogmas here on my full bookshelf. It's 6:20ish in the morning. I've had terrible nights of sleep for the past couple of days, so I'm feeling really run down. Today's a busy day at work and it's a busy day in terms of extra phone appointments and all that, but I'll try vlog as much as possible, and then I think if everything goes to plan I would like to talk about some of the books I've read throughout autumn. So yeah, that's sort of the plan for today. We'll do our advent calendar shortly and I'll show you that.
Okay. Pecan praline.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Hello, I am sitting on my floor. Well, actually, technically, I'm sitting in my dog bed and she's sitting on my poof. So, you know, a little exchange. I've got a massive bowl of pasta. This is actually a really special pasta for me. It doesn't look particularly appetizing, but it's basically pasta with passata, cheese, Parmesan cheese, and then fried in a little bit of butter and oil. So it gets all nice and crunchy, and this used to be one of my favourite dishes when I was a kid, just because it's so cozy and comforting, and it has the fun aspects of some bits that are quite crunchy and some bits that are just normal pasta. But anyway, we made a batch last night and I made it myself. So the past few months I haven't really done reading wrap-ups. That's not because I didn't want to do them, it's because I just didn't really have time to. And I thought I split them up between today and next time I vlog, or another time during Vlogmas, and I'll talk about some of the books I've read during autumn. So yeah, the first book I read after the summer break was Americana by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. So Americana is a novel that follows mainly one character. Her name is Ifemelu. Ifemelu was born and raised in Nigeria, and then in her late teens I think, yeah, she has a chance to go to university in the United States, so she takes that chance, and we see throughout the book parts of Ifemelu's life told as if they were little vignettes throughout her life, both in Nigeria and in the United States. The other part of the story is not necessarily split 50-50, but you do have insights to a second character. His name is Obinze, and Ifemelu and Obinze used to have a relationship when they were younger, when they were teenagers, and they both lived in Nigeria. Obinze, throughout his life, had the chance to go to the United Kingdom to work and study. So this book it's really hard to describe, because yes, it has this sort of story going on between the two characters somehow, and it could almost feel like a love story, but I feel like it's mostly an insight to the experience of being an immigrant, to being a legal immigrant and an illegal immigrant. It is also a chance to discuss with other people who read it. I was really glad this was a pick for my book club for the month of September, I think, because we had a chance to have a conversation that was broader and it encompassed race, because obviously you can see a lot about race in this book, because you see a character who's black moving to a country that is, well, to a place in the country that has a majority of white people living there. So there is the issue of racism, there is the issue of being black but not being black Afro-American. There is, on the other hand, when we look at Obinze, there is the issue of being black in a country that is probably a little bit more welcoming than the United States when it comes to having a different skin tone, but then being harsher when it comes to immigration and being an immigrant and being a foreigner and being somebody who comes from the outside of the United Kingdom. The book opens with Ifemelu going to a hair salon in the US before leaving to go to back to Nigeria. She decides she wants to move back and live a different life. She is a fairly successful blogger and what we would call now an influencer in the United States, but she decides she sort of misses home, and she realizes that Nigeria is sort of home for her. So there is that sort of internal journey going on, but also physical journey of potentially going back to Nigeria. I would say I like this book, but it wasn't one of my favorites. The reason for that is that I think it tries to do a lot and is not long enough to do everything it tries to do. It's very ambitious, but it doesn't necessarily fulfill what it goes there to do. All Ifemelo's story, absolutely brilliant, I loved it, but then the parts with Obinze I didn't love, just because I would have wanted to see more or nothing at all. So seeing just a little bit made me want to see and know more, but at the same time I also didn't particularly care about his character and didn't particularly like his character. But anyway, this is so comforting. Do you have anything similar in your culture? I know a few people are watching from around the world, which is crazy, but also great. What's your comfort food, and do you have anything that resembles this? Right. The next book I read is one that has been recommended a lot, especially following the tragic events of the killing of George Floyd. And that is Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Rennie Eddo-Lodge. She sort of starts with the premise of, I wrote this book because when I said that I was no longer talking about race, there was this uproar from both white people and black people, and there were contrasting views to one side saying I should teach and the other side saying it's about time people start learning on themselves, by themselves. It reads almost like a long essay. I loved the fact that I had the audiobook for this, so I decided to listen to the audiobook because I had one free Audible credit. And I listened to it and I love the fact that it's narrated by the author, so you can see that she really gets passionate about certain parts of the narration, and she gets more sort of instructive in other parts of the narration. The reason why I didn't like, or at least I wish I had the physical copy of the book, is because it's one of those books where you need to make notes. It's one of those books that is highly informative, especially as somebody, I am an immigrant in this country, and while I learned about history, the history that I learned is very European centric, and when it comes to Europe and when it comes to the part of Europe that I'm from, so Italy, you tend to learn a certain kind of history that's completely different. Say if you're from Eastern Europe, that's different if you're from Asia. I always talk to Andrew about his experience of learning history from an Australian perspective, and his experience is completely different. But yeah, there are a lot of things, especially when it comes to slavery, especially when it comes to discrimination, that you don't learn in school and that you really, really should. It is an essay explaining why white people sometimes are not receptive to the discussion of race, and why as a black person maybe you feel like it's time for you to step away and let people figure stuff out themselves because you deserve better. Honestly, it was a really interesting experience to read that, very eye-opening and very humbling as well. Reading it as a white person, it was quite it's not shocking because you know that this kind of stuff goes on. Like, if you think that racism doesn't happen in the country where you live, probably you need to look at yourself again and think why you're not seeing it. But it was very eye-opening. I will definitely buy or get secondhand or something a copy of the physical book, because I would want to go back to it and make some notes and actually have some key facts that I can point out to people. The other book that I read was this, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, and this is the 1818 version. So this is sort of like the first version that she wrote. The one that we normally read and we see retold in films is the 1932 version. I have already read the 1832 version back when I was in school. I do remember vaguely the story, but I can tell this one is different. I think this one, so the premise, if you don't know, Frankenstein, again, is not the monster, but is a doctor. Dr. Frankenstein is a young man from Geneva, I believe, in Switzerland, and from there he gets the chance to study abroad Frankenstein is always interested since a very young age with the study of natural studies, almost philosophy, and all the subjects that can be quite broad, especially if you focus on the older, more ancient sort of philosophers or physicists and all that. He gets fascinated with the idea that you sort of can create and destroy matter. So when he has the chance, he sort of goes into this, I would call it almost a trance, and for months and months and months he works frantically at this project, at the project that he believes he can create life out of death, which if you've studied especially Greek philosophy, I would say it's one of those things that you see repeated quite a lot, like nothing just dies, everything sort of transforms itself. So I think that principle is at the very basis of the book. The thing with Frankenstein is that, yes, he creates this monster, as we all know, I'm not spoiling anything, and then the relationship that he has with the monster is very unexpected, because it goes from being the proud creator, almost father figure, god figure I would say probably, who has given life to something, to being terrified of it and ashamed of it and sort of suffering mentally from what he has done. But the story for me is not about Frankenstein, it's about the monster himself. He's brought into the world where he knows he will experience only suffering because he looks different and he feels different and he cannot function in the same way a human being can function, so he has different needs. But then at the core of it, there is this sense of loneliness and being misunderstood and being misrepresented, which is so fitting to today's society. The fact that you are surrounded by billions of people, but at the same time you are an individual and you're most likely to be alone if you look different, if you have a disability, if your hands or face or skin color looks a certain way. So this was really interesting. Frankenstein discovers the fact that he can create life out of death, and he immediately feels bad about it once he sees the result of what is created. A lot of people suggest this as a book for Halloween time. I would say this book really doesn't see any season. It's very wintry because there are a lot of scenes that are cold. There is snow, there is fog, there is mountains, and it's really beautiful, and those places are so evocative. I had to, dog ear some parts of the book just because some passages were so beautiful. Mary Shelley's writing is incredible, and it was just a pure joy to read, to be honest. And I would definitely recommend it. Don't expect to be spooked by this book. I think the real spooky stuff is all the philosophical thinking that goes into this. Like, thinking that a young girl wrote this novel is quite something. Knowing that she couldn't put her name when she first published it because otherwise people would be too scandalized. And even when this was published and it wasn't published under her name, the book was still very, very scandalous because of the themes that are discussed and the way some very, not gruesome, but quite explicit things are discussed. So that, a brilliant read, and I love it, and I'm so glad I read this text because I think I can see some different, I remember some different parts in the story of the 1832 book, but I think I enjoyed this one more just because it's a little bit more raw. You can see that there is sort of like the young female going through a certain stage of life that is dealing with some subjects in her life, dealing with some topics in her life, and sort of translating them into a book. So that was a brilliant experience, and I would definitely recommend reading it. If you haven't picked it up yet and you're scared because, oh, it's an old novel and all that, the language is so beautiful and it's so evocative, and yes, it might take you a little bit longer to read, but it's so worth it. I'm joined by Poppy for this last segment. She's come to give me a little cuddle. She's got hiccups, so I'm massaging her belly. But the last book I want to talk about for this video, there is a few more coming. is The Light at the End of the Day, which I read. Actually, I did a reading vlog with... Hello! Okay. She's such an affectionate pooch. But anyway, Light at the End of the Day. I'll just prop it here. You can't see it. Okay. The Light at the End of the Day by Eleanor Wasserberg. It's a historical fiction novel set during the Second World War. It's set mostly in Poland. It spans through the borders a little bit every now and again. But anyway, mostly set in Poland. And it follows the life of a few characters from the same family of Polish, Jewish people who try to escape the basically the Nazi ruling and try to survive. I'm not going to go too much into detail because, as I said, there is a whole reading blog about this. This was a really nice story. The characters were a little bit flat, but the story itself was actually quite nice. I do like also that the incipit of the book is this painting that actually exists in real life. Again, if you head to the reading blog, you'll see what painting I'm talking about, but basically the girl portrayed in this painting is the great aunt of Eleanor Wasserberg, who's the author. So that was quite a nice extra thing about the story of how the book came to be. But yeah, so these are 4 books that I read during autumn. I think there is another 4 coming your way. I think I'll have to go back to work. I think I've got another meeting shortly, and very comfortable pop. Can I talk? Yeah, so oh my god, I'm just rambling on, am I not? Pops, you want to say hello? God, I love you so much. You're so pretty. You're so pretty. And by the way, if you're wondering why I've got a blanket, it's because the heating is on, but I also don't want to blast it at full power because it's... Stop. Because it's such a waste of energy and all that. So it's nice to keep a certain temperature around the house, but also with a blanket you're a little bit extra cozy. It's raining outside. It's miserable. Our walk this morning was really short. But hopefully by the time I'm done working, it's a little bit better. Yeah? What do you think, Pooch? You love it, don't you? Well, this brings me to the end of this sort of vlog, this video for Vlogmas for this channel. I do feel slightly bad because I'm aware this is taking place basically in these 4 walls with the exception of the bathroom sequence, which I'm not even sure what I'll actually edit in. So if it is not in, oof, what did you miss? But that being said, I do think it's important to recognise that days like this are very common and they are part of my day, and they have been since March. I started working from home on the 19th of March, before we went into lockdown the first time. And sorry if you hear a pounding noise, it's my neighbours upstairs, they're doing some work. But anyway, it's important to recognise that this reality of a room doubling up as an office, as a dining room, as a living room, as a chilling space is the reality for a lot of people right now. And to be honest, I consider myself really lucky because I have an understanding workplace that realises that commuting 4 hours every day would not be a safe option for me, and they're happy for me to work from home. I did not get furloughed, I did not get fired. I know a lot of people have lost their jobs and people that have families and responsibilities, so I do completely understand how privileged I am. But also I realise that within our own spaces we need to accept the fact that maybe we need to cut ourselves a little bit of slack. Because right now I was feeling really bad. I was thinking, oh my god, this video is going to be so bad. I did so little. But then again, what did I expect? There is a pandemic going on. I'm working from home. It's terrible weather outside. And honestly, it's a work day. I work full time. It's okay. And if you're also in the same situation where you sort of close the laptop at the end of the day or whatever thing is that you do and feel like, oh, today's been a wasted day because I didn't do anything else, please don't feel that way, because I think it's important to recognize that these are exceptional times, and hopefully within a year or less everything will go back to normal. But in the meantime, we need to make the situation the easiest to survive, really. having something like Vlogmas is definitely giving me something to look forward to every day, because whether that's editing and uploading or whether that's actually filming the video, it is giving me something that I know I'm accomplishing besides work every day. Something that is just purely entertainment, purely a passion project, something that I can just spend time and not feel guilty about it. So yeah, that was my little sort of feel good moment, even though it didn't sound that feel good. But I think the message that I hope you take away if you're listening to this, if you're watching this and you made it this far into the video, is don't feel like you need to accomplish plenty of things this festive season. Don't feel like you need to be cheerful in any way. Recognize that this year, just being alive is already an accomplishment. And yes, the bar is really low, but at the same time, it is the year in which we take it slow. Whether we want it or not, everything has slowed down. And my Decembers used to look full of events, full of people, full of parties, full of food and drinks. But it's not like this. I haven't gone out since March. I think the last time we were probably out was March, for Andrew's birthday, and that's okay. It will improve. But for now, let's just enjoy the fact that, you know, I managed to spend the entire day with my beautiful Christmas tree lit up. Yes, my energy bill is not going to be the best, but you know what? It's okay. So hopefully I didn't depress you too much. If you're struggling and feeling a little bit low, do leave a comment down below, because I want to try and make your day a little bit better. And I mean, if these vlogs help in any way, if they help even just one person to feel like they can distract and switch off from their reality for a little bit and see somebody else's reality for a little bit, then, you know, I've accomplished my mission, I guess. But thank you so much for watching for now, and yeah, if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, thumbs down is also fine. And feel free to leave a comment. If somebody else leaves a comment, be nice to each other. I've never had any issues of people not being nice in the comments. I barely have any comments, but if you see somebody else sharing their experience in the comments, if this chat actually inspires somebody to share how they're feeling, let's be nice to one another. And yes, I'll see you in a couple of days. Goodbye.